Hey everyone, welcome back to Tuesday Tea with me, Alisha Bowker Mudrock. We are in the month of September, so I have my fun black cat shirt on because it's officially spooky season and I'm so excited about it, even though it feels still like summer in South Florida, but that's fine. I'm channeling fall vibes. Today I have a dear friend, Hannah. She is also in Florida, so she knows what I'm talking about with this heat. But she was one of my second Pilates instructors who really formed my journey. We met in the lovely city of New Orleans, and she was early in her teaching career back then. I was kind of like earlier in my practice. I ended up getting some amazing, almost private lessons from her for real cheap, but I think we both got something great out of it. And I still think about those days. She would even come to my apartment. It was awesome. And we've stayed friends and really connected ever since. She is a background in ballet. She is a brilliant teacher, and she has had her hand in a lot of different studios and spaces throughout her moves. Her husband's in the military as well, so they've kind of lived all over. She is a mama, and she is just an incredible human. So I'm so thankful to have her here today as we're really continuing this conversation of this word elevate. And we're going to talk today a little bit more about how to elevate your own sort of fitness or movement journey. And so I'm going to kind of turn it over to Hannah here to share a little bit about what her movement, relationship, and journey has looked like and what that sort of means to her to think of elevating it or taking it sort of to that next level. So welcome, Hannah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really excited to share. Thank you for asking me to join. I've listened to a couple of your other Zoom meetings and I really enjoyed them. I think you had another instructor on who shared a lot about the history of Pilates.
Yes. Uh-huh.
She did a phenomenal job. And so I don't want to botch the history. So I'm gonna kind of take it from like a dancer's approach, I guess, and share a little bit about my experience, and then maybe a few tips and pointers at the end. But yeah, basically, I was training to be a professional ballet dancer and really struggling with my technique. My core was weak. I just didn't understand how to use it properly. And it was affecting my dancing and casting and roles and things like that. So directors that I had worked with had recommended, like, maybe you really should look into some Pilates. And I was under the impression, like many people, that it's like kind of like yoga, like you're just sitting on.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a common misconception.
Misconception. Yes.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, I do all that at home. Like it's not gonna happen,
I
whatever.
don't want to do this.
And also it's pricey. I could not afford a membership to a Pilates place at the time. I was in my early 20s. And also like in my hustling era. So I was working part-time at a Lululemon, all over the place,
Yes.
literally all over New Orleans. You know how it is.
Classic 20s life. Like, what are my 12 jobs? When do I sleep? When do I eat? What am I supposed to do? So,
Yeah, and like had all this energy, whatever. It was great. But yeah, I found this studio where I met Alicia, thankfully. And they had this little gig where you could work at the front desk, and then in turn, that kind of would go towards your membership. So
nice.
that's how I started one of my free nights. I would work at the desk there. And then that studio also was a training studio, which is, I've come to find, is like kind of a rarity. It's a gem to stumble upon, a training studio that's like it. And so I got really kind of invested in doing classes there. And I will never forget my first time on the reformer. Had never done, equipment or anything. And another dancer actually, who was an instructor, put me on the reformer. We just did like a 30-minute session, and she explained core activation, spinal articulation, all these things so clearly and so well. And then we finished, and I stood up, and I felt like I had just been to the chiropractor. Like I was like taller, and I don't know, I just felt this like nice centering. Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I I think I like adjusted the rear view mirror in my car when I sat down. So I was like,
You're
oh,
like, I was too low. I love it.
my great. Yeah, my spine felt great. So anyways, yeah, my lower back pain started really benefiting from it. Obviously my core got a lot stronger. My dancing benefited from it. I was hooked. So, and then I wanted to obviously become an instructor as well. So that's, I did my trainings there. They only offered mat and reformer.
Mhm.
And, you know, Pilates has several apparatuses. Joseph Pilates was quite an inventor. So love some people hate some. The chair has mixed reviews.
It's because it's so hard and so good. Like the people that hate it don't want to work hard, it feels like so.
Exactly.
Tough. It's tough.
Um, but yeah, and those hours, getting your hours as an instructor can be a doozy. So
Mhm.
you need observation hours, you need personal practice hours, and then you need student apprentice teaching hours,
Right.
which God bless those people that were patient with me when I started teaching, when I was just like fumbling over my words, you know,
Yeah.
it's hard. It's like you,
Great. I
yeah.
had no idea you were like so early in your hour, like that you were getting hours when we first started. Like I just was like, well, these are great classes. Like I had no idea that you were newer until you told me. And I was like, oh, okay. So
Well,
often
and
we do better than we think. So
I was gonna say also you were like such an ideal body to work with, because like you would get off work. Our studio had like a, I guess it was like a program at the hospital you were
Mhm.
working at.
Yes.
So
Yes.
started off with like a couple therapists and nurses, and then it kind of dwindled down to just
Just
Alisha.
me and you.
And so I'd show up at the hospital like every Wednesday. We'd do an hour of Pilates, and you were like, you wanted to work hard. You wanted to do like the full Pilates system, which I've now, I'm coining it personally as the full rotisserie, is what I call it.
Like that.
Front of the body, your flexion, the
Yeah.
back of the, your extension, your
Full
sides,
portion.
yeah, all of that. So the full rotisserie is work the full body.
Love that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed teaching you. And then eventually no one was showing up. We were like, why are we doing this at a hospital?
Right. We could do
Oh,
this at my apartment or somewhere better than the hospital like conference room that we were in.
it's
So
some creepy conference room. Sometimes we would try to do it outside.
yeah,
Eventually we'd do it by the pool. That was really fun.
we did. We did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good times, good times. Yeah, and then sadly the military moved both of us. I think me
Yeah.
and
And then
after.
right after. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I learned at my next studio, you know, you really, how important it was to kind of train on all the other apparatuses as well. I tested out on just reformer and mat, and I was like, you know, I'm good to go. I'm a Pilates instructor now. Like I know my stuff. And they were like, no, there's really more to it. And they encouraged me to continue my training. So then I really liked that balanced body is the training method I did. And I really liked that they had kind of trainings all over. So like you could um, fly to Asheville, North Carolina, and like, you know, learn anatomy there, like go to Arizona and learn chair or whatever, and get
Yeah.
different, yeah, different people's kind of experience and their expertise or whatnot. So did all of that and really enjoyed it. And I also started working really closely with a ballet company in Virginia. It was Ballet Virginia, and I really enjoyed that. I mean, obviously with dance, it's very hard on your body. Um, and a lot of the dancers were, you know, getting injured. It's just part of it, you know, you
Mhm.
hurt your knees and hips, a lot of ankle foot stuff too. And then who doesn't have back pain and who doesn't need a better.
Right. Right.
Two of the girls there had a couple of surgeries throughout the time I was working there. So I was able to kind of I don't want to say like rehab them, but kind of help them stay in shape and train and get their ankle and alignment knee stuff going back, so that they could continue on in their dance career. And I really enjoyed that. I eventually bought a reformer at my house so that they could just come on over after classes and stuff and work with them. And yeah, then I became a mom. I had my first little baby, and that was shortly after COVID too. So I was kind of teaching on Zoom, kind of teaching at my house, but overall, like I never tested out, like I never finished like
The whole
it's
training.
your comprehensive certification. Yeah. That was really intimidating to me. I was like, oh, I don't know my stuff well enough. Like I think I was like close to finishing my hours, but I also didn't have like a Cadillac there or a chair, things like that.
You don't have it there. Yeah.
So I finally, our next move brought us here to Florida, for the military. And we live like really close to like a really good studio here that is also Balance Body Training Studio.
Oh,
Very lucky with that one. And so the owner, Susan, helped me finish up my hours. She even like, she was so kind. She gave me like one-on-one, she like went through like the modules and did like
mhm.
trap and all that with me. So anyways, finished my certification just last October. So it took me 7 years,
But
but
you did it.
proud of myself. Yeah, I finally did it. It's been a really nice constant throughout my 20s, throughout my life, throughout every move. It's a great military spouse, mom job, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. It's very like anchoring and you can kind of take it anywhere, but it's consistent. Like when you show up to do Pilates, you know what you're doing, no matter where you are. It's very consistent and grounding. And that can feel really nice when we do move a lot and there is a lot of transitions in life. And even if you're not moving a lot, I think just having a practice to come to that you know what to expect, like you can just kind of like lean into it, get into your body, trust the process, tune out for maybe that hour or whatever long the class is such an incredible way to give back to yourself and also to keep that consistency in a life that is always sort of ebbing and flowing and changing,
Yeah.
Despite if you're physically moving locations or just, the seasons or this or that or job or demands kids,
Right.
like all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, life is always
Mhm.
ebbing and flowing, like you said. Yeah. Um, yeah. So that's kind of, I guess, my journey. And it really has, on your theme of elevate, I would say Pilates has elevated my life. It's been a huge way to make connections and friendships. I've met like some of the most wonderful women. I mean, it is primarily a female dominant industry. I have worked with other males, but I would say majority,
Yeah.
it's great. It's womanhood and friendship, and it's important. And I do not allow like talking, yapping during my class, but I think before and after, like the social aspect of it is fun. And
Yes.
it's, yeah, you get like a consistent group that normally comes. And I love, 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 like you said, it's that hour to unplug. It really is an hour to kind of disassociate from your responsibilities. Um, and the thing I love about a group class or a private lesson is that you're being like led what to do versus at like the gym or something on your own where you're having to count how many you did or keep track I mean, there are benefits to that for sure, but I love being not having to think about what I'm doing next. Like just
Yeah.
trust.
I just lay there or stand there or sit there and someone's like, do this. And I'm like, perfect. I can do
Yeah.
that. Yes.
Know that you're going to move your body, but you don't have to you're not thinking about your responsibilities and all of that good stuff. So yeah, it's one of the best things you can do. Movement is medicine, and you're only as young as your spine is flexible. I'm a true believer in that. So yeah.
Oh. And what do you think so like insert, I mean, obviously we're biased. I will always think Pilates is one of the best things you can do, plus whatever else you want to do. But, let's say someone is more of like a runner or a weightlifter or a Orange Theory kind of person or whatever else, right? Regardless of what the movement practice is, what are some ways to think about that idea of always trying to elevate or bring it up just a little bit more, right? I don't even know if that necessarily means it's like an intensity, but
Mhm.
like what kind of implies teaches a lot of this, like what do we need to be sort of like connected to about ourselves when thinking about movement as medicine? What's sort of that relationship or process like maybe, or even through your journey of different seasons of doing more, doing less, or doing different things? How do you kind of stay connected to yourself to figure out what that right movement fit is at any given time, or what it kind of means to keep turning the dial and sort of checking in?
Okay. Yeah, I think a couple things come to my mind because um working with many different bodies, um yeah, I love when like really fit, like athletic, really strong people, like the spin girlies, the runners, the weightlifting, even like, yeah, the guys, the, they come in and they start off and like maybe we're just starting footwork or something.
Mhm.
And your initial thought is probably like, okay, this is easy. And I love to see the sweat start to happen and like the kind of flip happen when we get into like those secret muscles, like, and wake up some dormant things that like, um, you know, properly firing the glutes, finding your obliques
Hip
and different,
flexors. How many
yeah,
people don't like ever really work on their hip flexors and you have to do the box sit and stand and people are like, I can lift 3,000 pounds, but I cannot do this. Like, because it's such a little secret little part of our
yeah,
body. We don't naturally we actually overuse it in the wrong ways. We don't actually strengthen it that often
yeah,
for other
yeah.
stuff.
You're down training those overly aggressive muscles and you're
Mhm.
upping those smaller, weaker detail muscles that are sometimes sleepy muscles and that need to be up. Yeah. So really Pilates is for everyone. It is for the super strong. And it is also for the people that probably need it the most are like the more frail, the osteoporosis
Mhm.
ladies, and yeah, things like that. And then I have going along with, I guess, like tips and stuff, I have some pointers, I guess, for clients out there. And then I also have maybe a few takeaways. I've been an instructor for, almost a decade now. So I have a few little maybe tidbits for other instructors out there that I like to, that have been shared with me that have been helpful. So, anyways, there is a quote that Joseph Pilates says. You probably heard this too, but he says, in 10 sessions, you'll feel better. In 20 sessions, you'll look better. And in 30 sessions, you'll have a completely new body.
Mhm.
And not, I don't think he meant this from like getting like your bikini body visuals point.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. It
inside
can't be,
out.
you don't have to be we're not talking a supermodel body or anything. It's just a new body in a very different way. Yes.
Yeah, it's the new body in terms of like relief from joint pain, spine issues, like that kind of thing. Yeah. Um, so that advice that I tell people is consistency. And with consistency though, like I think when people are like, oh, how often can you come? Like if you can come 3 days a week, like if you can do like a Monday, Wednesday, Saturday class or something, something like that, or a Tuesday, Thursday class, some sort of consistency. Um, there is also room for that though, with having grace on your body, with where you are in your cycle and where you are with like pushing yourself and resting and knowing when you just need to do a little more like of a stretchy class or when um
Ah,
so consistency, but listening to the body is a huge thing because maybe you don't always need to get on the jump board and do like a cardio.
the full cardio.
Yeah.
just really fast to pause, just as
Okay.
like a reflection of that. I think so. Talking about to elevate is around this theme of consistency, which we kind of touched on even last week with the mindset piece of continuing to challenge those limiting beliefs, continuing to shift our mindset to that, growth change mindset. But even in our movement practice, we need to keep showing up. However, I think it's a beautiful reminder that it also doesn't mean, though, the intensity has to build and build and build every single time, right? We're not climbing a mountain every day. That the consistency is part of just also this natural journey of maybe slower, higher, in between. So it's not just saying, well, I can't do the workout today because I don't feel great. So maybe it's just doing just like a couple little bridges and some stretching that day versus like a full on class, right? Or it is a more sweet Pilates versus like, the TRX Pilates class or something like that. So I think that those are two really great reminders to take away, that as we to elevate is to know ourselves and to meet ourselves where we're at, but continuing to show up regardless of kind of where we're at. Would that be a fair summary?
Yeah, I think that's so important. And yeah, along those lines, a way that you can kind of help yourself find consistency with your ebbs and flows of life and mood and physical where you are in life,
Yeah.
viewing not just Pilates, but like movement for yourself as self-care. I
Mm,
think so huge, viewing it as like a little treat for yourself, like,
yeah.
because it really is, it's like it's a treat. It's on the more expensive side of workouts, I would say. It is a little bit more like luxury in some ways. um and yeah, viewing it as like taking care of yourself and like a little hour of self-care, adding it to your dopamine menu. I don't know if you've
Yes,
heard
I
people.
have. I have. Those are great. Yeah. Google,
Yeah.
if you don't know. We don't have time to get into it, but Google dopamine menu if you're not sure what it is, because it's,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are kind of from a client standpoint, those are ways or advice I would give to someone um, wanting to dive more into movement and taking care of their body and things like that. So, and finding an instructor you like is super
Yes.
important.
Yes.
Some people try Pilates, they didn't like it because didn't really click with that person, or maybe that instructor was too abrasive, or maybe that instructor was too soft spoken, or whatever, like different strokes,
Yeah.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a huge spectrum of people. The more classical people,
Mhm. More
some,
contemporary. I,
yeah.
I tend to like that my instructors to all have been former ballet dancers. I've just noticed a pattern. All my favorite instructors were all former ballet. You guys always have the most fun transitions and the most fun sequences and patterns because of your dance background, I think, which I appreciate other classes too, but it's just so funny that the three like people anchor instructors I've had over the years I can think of, you all have a background in dance, particularly ballet. So it's just a funny coincidence. But
I think like, yeah, ballet dancers either go in like any three directions. Like when they stop dancing, they either become Pilates instructors, nutritionists, or PTs. Like there is no in
you guys
between.
know you're like the body, there's a lot that can happen to the body
Yeah.
in this art of ballet. So let's now go help people grow in these other areas once we're done doing this to ourselves. So
Yes. 100%. So yeah. And then some great advice I've been given as an instructor, because I think like becoming a Pilates instructor is like, it's a booming industry. It's blowing up.
yeah,
It's
very
huge.
hot right now.
Yeah, very hot. The influencer girlies got a hold of it, and
They did. They ran with it.
yeah, people are acting like it's this new thing, but it's been around.
Old, 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 old since World War One.
Yeah. Um, but I love that it's getting really popular and stuff. It's great. It's more accessible. But so if you're wanting to become an instructor, I know like my sister is interested. I have a lot of friends that are interested and stuff. So my biggest, I guess, advice is to always plan your class ahead and never wing it, because when those people are showing up and they've paid, sometimes like $45 for that hour class with you, you, I think as an instructor, need to show up really well prepared to, and kind of know your stuff, know what you're doing, and also that the Pilates system works. Like, it is tried and true. We don't need to feel like we need to reinvent the wheel every class. I used to get really worried about people getting bored because we're doing like the same thing. But like, it works, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, basically.
Exactly.
We trust the modules that's in the book. And I think there's a lot of like spicy debate out there right now about people who are more like purist with Pilates, being like, that's not Pilates. Like, if someone like changed up the arm a little bit or whatever, and then going crazy with it and doing like all these squats and lunges and jumping jacks on the reformer. And it's like, I don't know if that's really Pilates either. So
right.
Yeah, finding that middle ground, but also knowing that the Pilates system works, kind of staying true to what Pilates is super important, and that you don't need to feel like you need to get all this like Instagram inspiration, like, oh, I saw, this one instructor doing a back bend and bicep curls on the reformer. Like, I'm not caught up in all of that is huge, because sometimes footwork, supine arms, feet and straps, like, it does the damn trick. So,
Couple of mermaids, maybe a little swan in there. We're good to go. Whole rotisserie happened.
The whole rotisserie.
So true.
Everyone's gonna be like, wow, that felt amazing. They don't care that it's, similar to what we did last week. Like, whatever, maybe build upon that a little bit, but like, yeah.
Well, and honestly, as like a student, and then as someone now learning to teach, there's something very grounding about knowing that you're going to expect certain things each class. So sure, you change up the little flow, the pattern, you add like a fancy little transition here or there, but like, I know I should always, like you said, be doing some sort of footwork. I should always be lying on my back at some point. I should always be doing something with my, intentionally, like an ab series. I should always be doing some set of side work. There always will be some sort of extension, and like, it's how I like that. If it like, we missed a whole chunk of that, or we did something totally, that was more bar class and not Pilates, I'd be like, well, I didn't come to a bar class. I came to Pilates class, right? So I think that it is, even I think as the teacher side, we can get so in our heads, like, was it good enough? Was it fancy enough? But on the student side, I just remembered, no, I don't want it to be too wild. Like, yeah, like, give me something a little interesting. This is why I didn't choose to go the super classical route, because that is literally the same moves, the same sequence every single time. For me, it was a little bit like, my Sagittarius soul is like, that's a little too strict. Like, I'm a little more freedom, but I enjoy, like, I know the formula. I can kind of anticipate what possibly is coming next, but also it's a surprise, like how it's going to happen exactly. But it's, so it's very anchoring. And that's where you can really get into that mind-body connection, where it's not like totally learning something new every time, but I'm remembering and re-experiencing and relearning what it feels like today to do that thing. Because our bodies are never the same every day, right? Like, my bridges might feel so easy one day, and then like 3 days later, I'm like, oof, this feels like a lot harder because I'm more stiff. I've been at my desk for 3 days in a row. I haven't moved as much in between, right? So like, he was such a genius because he didn't need to get too fancy, because this does work, because we need it consistently over and over all the time, because we've never mastered it. Like, our bodies are always different. Our bodies are always like in different stages and changes. And so this always meets us where we're at and pushes us just a little bit every time, so.
Yes. Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And like, with ballet, like my whole upbringing, you do every class, you start out with plies, then you do tendus, then you do dégagés, then you do rounded jumps. Like, it's tried and true, and it's the same every time. And that's very healing. I think there's a huge clientele out there too, of like adult ballet students who love to go, because it's like, it's part of the disassociating thing. Yeah, what to expect. That's nice. It's nice to be able to know what to expect. And Yeah.
Especially in a
So
world where we don't always know what to expect 80% of the time. So it's a nice little like refuge for sure. Um,
I
so
mean, I depends on the toes. We definitely, we'll do.
oh yes, you keep it interesting, but it's
Yeah.
again, it's those anchor points, right? Like the
Yeah.
class has a structure, and
For sure.
that's what is like really helpful to show up. Like that's why we pay someone to teach us too, even as we know how to do it. Like I want to be told and taught and hear their take on it, or just like led through it, but I still have an anticipation of the structure, and I'm not like wildly confused or surprised. Like
Yes.
what happened here, which can be so great. So thank you so much, Hannah. I think this was excellent. So I just like loved hearing about your journey and the way that you've sort of elevated your own movement practice to match the different seasons of life that you've been in, and how even when there were some of those doubts, you pushed through and really should be so proud of yourself for getting that full certification less than a year ago, which is awesome. And just this idea of consistency, this idea of meeting our bodies where they're at, but giving ourselves this gift of movement, because it truly is a gift. And like you said, we age with our spine, and there will be a day that it will age a bit. We can keep it as young as possible, but like we're gonna miss this 20-year-old body, 30-year-old body, 40-year-old body. And not to say we're not gonna have a great body that can move still at 80 and 90, but it is going to be different. And so really taking advantage of this season and this space that you're in, whichever one that might be, to keep capitalizing on it, preparing for the next season, is such an important thing. And just a quick plug too, I have 2 Back to Basics Pilates mat virtual series starting on Mondays, starting the 23rd, and on Wednesdays, starting October 2nd. So there'll be 4 weeks. And it's great for folks who like heard this and are curious a little bit more. It's about a lot of foundations. It's slow, but hard, and we build each week. You'll have recordings, so you can keep that as practice, and it's very reasonably priced. So something you do at the comfort of your own home, and not too much of an investment. So be sure to look into that if you're interested. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is really fun. I loved nerding out about Pilates together, and it was
Yes,
great to
yes, anytime.
see.
All right, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any more Tuesday Teas, and I will see you next week. Bye.